Welcome to Daily Home Bible Readings from our Sunday School lesson for Thursday, November 3rd, 2022, for ages 25 and older and ages 18 to 24. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's topic is You Must Bear Witness in Rome, and it's coming out of Acts chapter 22, beginning at verse 30, and then ending at Acts chapter 23, verse 11. Now, I will read the King James Version and the Amplified Version. On the morrow, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands, and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them. And Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, Men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that they stood by him to smite him on the mouth. Then said Paul unto him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall. For sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law? And they that stood by said, Revilest thou God's high priest? Then said Paul, I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest. For it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees, and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Of the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am called in question. And when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the multitude was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. And there arose a great cry, and the scribes that were of the Pharisees' part arose, and strove, saying, We find no evil in this man, but if a spirit or an angel have spoken to him, let us not fight against God. And when there arose a great dissension, the chief captain, fearing lest Paul should have been pulled in pieces of them, commanded the soldiers to go down and to take him by force from among them, and to bring him into the castle. And the night following, the Lord stood by him and said, Be of good cheer, Paul, for as thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also at Rome. The Amplified Version. Acts chapter 22, beginning at verse 30, and ending at Acts chapter 23, verse 11. But on the next day, wanting to know the real reason why Paul was being accused by the Jews, he released him and ordered the chief priest and the whole council, Sanhedrin, Jewish high court, to assemble, and brought Paul down and presented him before them. Paul before the council. Then Paul, looking intently at the council, Sanhedrin, Jewish high court, said, Kinsmen, I have lived my life before God with a perfectly good conscience until this very day. At this, the high priest Ananias ordered those who stood beside him to strike Paul on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. Do you actually sit to judge me according to the law, and yet in violation of the law order me to be struck? But those who stood near Paul said, Are you insulting the high priest of God? Paul said, I was not aware, brothers, that he was high priest, for it is written, You shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. But recognizing that one group were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, Paul began affirming loudly in the council chamber, Kinsmen, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. I am on trial for the hope and resurrection of the dead. When he said this, an angry dispute erupted between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the whole crowded assembly was divided into two factions. For the Sadducees say that there is no such thing as a resurrection, nor an angel, nor a spirit, but the Pharisees speak out freely and acknowledge their belief in them all. Then a great uproar occurred, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees' party stood up and began to argue heatedly in Paul's favor, saying, "We find nothing wrong with this man. Suppose a spirit or an angel has really spoken to him." And as the dissension became even greater, the commander, fearing that Paul would be torn to pieces by them, ordered the troops to go down and forcibly take him from them and bring him to the barracks. On the following night, the Lord stood near Paul and said, "Be brave, for as you have solemnly and faithfully witnessed about me at Jerusalem, so you must also testify at Rome." The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.